So I get asked all the time, how do I get into cybersecurity? So I make videos, as you know, on how to keep your family safe online. And I have people that message me privately. I have people that email me. I have a ton of comments in the Family IT Guy videos. How do I get into cybersecurity? And to be honest, it's not a very easy question to answer. And so I have opinions, but I thought, you know what? I've got a bunch of really cool friends that and who I think are cool, who are really smart and have a bunch of experience specifically in the cybersecurity space. So let's talk with them. And so today we have Orlando Padilla. And Orlando and I worked together at Northrop Grumman on a security team. I think we started working together about 20 years ago. Does that sound about right? 2005, 2007, something like that.
It sounds like we're really
We're on
old, but
Ryan's
yes,
team,
it sounds about right. Yeah,
right?
2000, 2006, 2007. Yeah.
Yeah, when we were definitely less aged than we are now.
Yeah, yeah,
And we were
yeah.
both in our 20s at the time.
We were
And
priming.
so I I lucked out. I got sort of placed onto this security team. I was in the process of trying to learn security, and I was very fortunate at the time. I was in this mentorship program trying to become a CTO. And the mentorship program people at Northrop Grumman said, look, well, if you want to be a CTO, you have to know about security. So you should go and be on a security team for a year. So I get dropped into this team, and Orlando's one of the guys on the team. And I'm the only guy in the room that has no idea what's going on. Like, I don't know the first thing about security. And I'm sitting, and so Orlando and I end up becoming friends. And I find out that Orlando really knows what's going on. He's been doing this stuff at that time already for a while. And so, Orlando, I would love to get your perspective on a question, and
Sure.
the most sort of popular question that people ask me, and I want to focus a little bit on it. Is if I am a high school student and I want to get into cybersecurity, what do I do?
Yeah.
And purposely, that's a big question. There's a lot there, so I'll let you unpack that however you want. We'll kind of talk through it.
Sure.
But that's the question I want to the purpose of this conversation in my mind is to expose enough information for people that are in that situation, high school, maybe college. What do I do? What do I focus on? How do I know if I like it? So I'll leave it there. And in fact, if you don't mind, maybe start off with like a short introduction on what do you do? And
Sure.
what do you call yourself in terms of your professional capacity? Give us a brief background. We'll talk about answering the question, and then after that, we'll get more into like a detailed background.
Sure. Sure. It is a tough question, and it's a we spoke a little bit prior to this a couple days ago, and I told you that the answer changes quite a bit. At least in my head, it changes quite a bit. Not just so much by like who the audience that is asking is and what their background is, but also it evolves within time. With time. If someone would have asked me this, 15 years ago, I would have said just play with tech, play with networks. Reading a book is great, but unless you're implementing it, everything's different. And so you have to learn different software packages, different hardware packages, different CLIs, different web interfaces, things like that. But that's not the case anymore, right? Like everything's kind of standardized into like using the web for configuration things, using web for this, using web for that. Um, a bit of background, I guess. Let me kick that off. I started off doing the QA work 26 years ago or so. And ironically, QA work is very similar to security work because you're testing functionality in a product and you're trying to break it because you want to ensure that when the product gets released, it doesn't break. It's not fragile. The users, the customers can do what they need to do and do silly things to the software, and it shouldn't puke. Right? It should tell you, hey, don't do this, don't do that. But very quickly, because I'm a huge tinkerer, very quickly that became how do I break this for running code? How do I break this purposefully? How do I develop, this for tickling some specific protocol and things like that? And I wasn't even a coder then. I was just basically a tech user. But I had a lot of interest in coding and so um, I was 19 at the time. My sister was going to drive to San Francisco to go see a guy she was dating at the time from America Online, if that'll give you a time frame.
Yes.
And
And you
so we
were in LA then, or where,
no,
or was?
I was in San Antonio. I was going to
Oh, you were.
UTSA
Oh, and driving to San Francisco from San Antonio.
from San
Gotcha. Okay.
Antonio, but it happened to be right before DEF CON. I think DEF CON 13 or something like that. And so I told her, look, I'll join you and I'll help you with gas and all that hotels if if we make a pit stop at DEF CON for a couple of days. And she agreed. And so that was my first introduction to DEF CON, and I met some people there from San Antonio. They offered me a job in security just because I was wearing a UTSA shirt and I was in software, and I was at DEF CON, so they were like, you must be interested in security, right? And so it kind of kicked off my cyber career from that. But in general, I've always loved offensive security. I've always loved breaking things, being on the offensive side, right? Not necessarily defending. On the Northrop side, very quickly did we convert from being commercial offerings to being on the defensive side. Very quickly after you left, Ben, is basically what we were doing is doing corporate security for Northrop Grumman. Um,
Yeah.
which is fun, right? You get access and you get privy to a whole lot of attacks that are coming in to state-sponsored attacks from the government to programs that Northrop was running, and so that was fun. But anyways, that was about the extent of my defensive career. I jumped from there onto doing offensive tooling again for DoD and different agencies, and then I did a whole bunch of training for different agencies as well on offensive stuff. But thankfully,
And
because
when you
of
say you did a bunch of training, is that you're the one that's providing the
yeah,
training?
yeah. So
Yeah.
so they had boot camps for troops over at Fort Meade, and they asked us to develop a whole bunch of RE courses, network courses, perimeter hacking courses, Python, gray hat Python course, things like that. And so that was probably about 3 years of my career over at Fort Meade, back and forth from Austin, San Antonio to there. Lots of fun, met a lot of people. And if it wasn't for doing a lot of the RE work that I did while at Northrop for malware that we were getting hit with, uh, it would have been a lot harder to jump into the offensive side of things. But because I had all that background in reverse engineering malware from a defensive perspective, it was easy to go down the path of reverse engineering for vulnerability research, right? And so that kind
Yeah.
of spun me off. Looking at the tools that were being developed to move across networks was super intriguing, man. I mean, these guys were incredible. We were looking at not only the entry point, the ODay they were using to try and get into the Northrop Grumman networks and other networks, not just Northrop's, right? We would see the same attack patterns across the defense contracting um, world, and uh, and then we would see how they operated, right? And then we would literally reverse every single tool we got access to just so that we can get paint an entire picture of what they were doing in our infrastructure, and it was super fun. And so very quickly, I wanted to be that guy and not the guy defending, right? Like I want to be the guy developing tools to subvert the defensive processes. And so
Yeah.
in about, I guess in about 2010, 2012 is when I completely went offensive, and I've been offensive since. A whole lot of pen testing. Um, but anyway, that kind of kicked off my career into the offensive side of things. Let me go back and revisit the question. The question, like I said, it's difficult to answer. If I'm gauging it on a high school student asking me, it's great because high school students have an an enormous amount of time to do things, right? Even though they think they don't, they do. They absolutely do. We waste so much time when
Yeah.
we're young. It's not even funny.
Yeah.
Uh, and so, what I would recommend is, uh, of course, right? Tech skills are super important. There's a whole bunch of programs now that weren't around when we were younger, Ben. Um, Cyber Patriots is the huge one. And then there's a whole bunch of competitions for capture the flag series out there. A lot of companies, especially like offensive security, will do capture the flag events uh, for people on the internet. Like you can literally sign up, maybe with a team or by yourself, and compete. And if you're just starting off, then obviously you're not gonna shoot for number one spot, but shoot for getting access to one box, following some tutorials to get access to the first one, maybe the second one, or join the team of a little bit more senior members that can teach you some things. And that it's motivation, right? It's kind of like gaming, 1v1 gaming, where you want to get better at the game because the minute you jump in, you get killed, right? Call of Duty was my go-to game back in the day, and I stopped playing exactly because of that. I didn't play as much, but the minute I jumped on, I was getting killed 3 seconds into the game. And so you need
Yeah.
playtime, right? And CTFs are a phenomenal way to do this. They teach you real world tactics. The CTFs, the internal networks that they build for these competitions, have gotten very very large, and so it's good practice. I mean, even employers, when we're dealing with like offensive developers, we tell developers, hey, how about you jump on a CTF or one of these networks? I don't want to name any specific ones, but there's a whole lot of them. You can just Google, CTF competitions out there, and play and learn, how to do some offensive stuff so you can have a better idea as to how to develop things. I think those are
Are
huge.
there, sorry to interrupt, but are
Good.
there these capture the flag competitions? Are there some that are like ongoing that you can just go and do as you please, or are they often a scheduled competition?
The competitions themselves, there's two form factors. There's a long factor where companies will have a whole slew of vulnerable servers, right? And then they'll name them, and then they'll be parted by hardness of it, or the difficulty in them. And you can just join in, and there'll be a running play. This guy's running in first place for the last 6 months, or this team is running in place for the last 4 months. But you can join in
Oh,
and start hitting these boxes and work your way up, right? And so there's that type, which are like forever running. And then those same companies sometimes will do special events, once a quarter or whatever, with payouts, $1,000 payouts, $5,000 payouts for whoever wins that competition. And so there's
oh wow.
both, in short.
Yeah. Okay. Right
Um,
on.
so those are hugely important, because the answers will help you understand what you did wrong if you couldn't pop the machine you were targeting, right? The peers you're playing with hopefully are a little bit more senior to you, and can help you kind of get through these machines. And most important, what I like to remind the people that I convey this to is, if you get through the competition and you're upset and you hated it, then more than likely cyber's not for you, right? Like it's just the way it goes. But if you're excited because you got 17th place out of 500 people or 100 people, right? That's amazing. That's great, because that's motivation to do better next time. Or even if you get 50th place out of 100 people, if it's your first CTF, that's still phenomenal for you,
Oh
right?
yeah, that'd be amazing,
And
right?
so
Yeah, I always wonder about that too. Like, how do you know inside? Because I feel like cybersecurity, like the real pros, it's in them. Like you can't stop thinking about it, right? Like you're just there's
right.
an obsession.
Oh, there's a compulsory obsession where you don't feel like you win, right? You want that win, you want that compromise. It doesn't matter if you're trying to root a new watch you just bought, or you're trying to expand the frequency of some CB radio you're playing with, right? Like, it doesn't really matter. If you can't do it, you feel like a failure, and if you pull it off, it's a phenomenal feeling, right?
Yeah.
And so that that is how I would gauge anything as far as your interest is concerned, right? Like, if you're having a ton of fun learning and playing with it, and enjoying the tribulations that you're dealing with, trying to get access to the next machine or trying to get to the new hurdle, um, then that'll tell you, that you're into cyber. You like hacking. You like fiddling and breaking things. But if you're bored out of your mind and you hate it, and every article you come across that's supposed to help you, you're just like, this is Chinese to me, right? I can't do this, and it's just frustrating for you, and it might not be for you, right? I had a whole bunch of family members ask me to help them get into programming, for the first 15 years of my career. It's very simple, right? Get a book, find a tutorial, find some videos online, follow them, right? Follow them to the T. It doesn't matter if you're writing a calculator app or a tic-tac-toe game, right? Super boring. If you don't enjoy the
Yeah.
process, then programming isn't for you. But if you enjoyed the process, then you don't even have to come back to me. You're just going to keep going because you really, really liked it, right?
Yeah.
there's no
Yeah.
forceful way to program, right? Like if you're not a programmer, you know you're not a programmer. If you're not a developer, you're not a
Yeah.
developer. Like we were talking right before we started this. Like I am not a developer by any means whatsoever. Can I code? Absolutely. Can you ask me to
Yeah.
code for 6 months straight on the same application? I'm gonna shoot myself. I can't do it. I don't like it. It's
Yeah.
boring to me, right? But writing proof of concepts, writing hacking tools, writing enumeration tools, writing that type of stuff, I love it. It's great. It's easy. It's a couple of days of work or sometimes a couple of hours, and you get your win and you move on to the next project, right? That's what I like. And
Yeah.
those
Well,
are two
then
things that I.
yeah. Well, and I often wonder about that too. Of like, there's so many areas of specialty,
Hmm.
and I feel like maybe you have the bug, but you're not sure. Like, how do I determine which area of specialty do I go down, or do I just end up going down an area of specialty based on exposure, based on, well, I read this book first and I did this tutorial first, and now I'm focused down this
Yeah,
path. And
that, that's
if
a
I enjoy it, I keep
that's a
going.
great question. Yeah, I like that because I was focusing more on the offensive side of things. See if you like hacking, right, from an offensive perspective. Um, the cyber patriots programs that are available for high school and for collegiate level. They have both. They have a defensive and offensive roles, right? They even have a new one where you can do or kind of cater to both of them, right? Um, and that'll immediately let you know. On the defensive side, you have to build tech and you have to defend tech, and that'll give you an idea as to whether or not you like
Mm.
building it. I myself, I'm already jaded on the building things, right? Like if you tell me to set up an AD network, I'm gonna be like, that's really not my thing. It's kind of boring. I've done it 1,000 times. I don't want to do it again, you know. Um, but if
Like
you
Active Directory.
right. But if you like it, like if
Yeah.
you enjoy building it and being able to use it and querying and adding policies and users and whatnot, like it's for some people, right? Like it's definitely for some
Yeah.
people. But um, to to circle back again, right? Like the question changes quite a bit. And to address the broadness of cyber in like in general, um, man, it's tough because I have been focused on offensive security for the last 15 years that if you ask me, what do enterprises use for like content filtering? Like I have no clue, right? And some people will ask, like, how are you in cyber, but you don't know anything about content filtering? Well, it's because it's not my thing, right? It's its own. People use them in hardware devices at the EPOPs, at your gateways coming out of your networks, your corporate infrastructures. They're all cloud based now. There's no longer on-prem devices. It's weird. I can't give you an answer,
Yeah.
right? Like that's a
It's
reality of
very
it.
weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very similar to what my stance is on if you're wanting to be a developer and you try it and you hated it, then don't force it, man. It's not for you. Find that passion. If it's not offensive security, cool. It doesn't have to be. Maybe you like defending,
Yeah.
right? Maybe you like intrusion detection systems or configuring them, or maybe you're gonna write the next intrusion detection system that's next gen using, the all infamous AI. And so,
Yeah.
who knows? Um, it's a big world. The so one aspect of it that I always forget to mention when people ask me what to do, how to get into it is by far, even greater now at this point in time in 2025, um, is make connections. Make connections. AI ruined hiring. It's very difficult to hire.
Yeah.
One, because AI is writing resumes for everyone, and
Yeah.
AI bots are submitting resumes for people. And so the hiring
Yeah.
managers and hiring teams are inundated with resumes that may or may not be real, right? And so
Yeah.
you won't hear a callback if you don't have an in into a company. You will never hear back from them, all right? Or you can hear back
Yeah.
from the automated system. And so, unfortunately, and this is the reality, you can have a resume with a PhD, right? And you can have a resume with a high school diploma and 10 years of experience in the industry, right? But that guy, right, that has 10 years of experience only, or maybe 5 years of experience only, is going to get the phone call, not the PhD guy, if he knows the hiring manager or one of the peers of the hiring manager, or right. And we've proven this time and time again. man. I mean, friends of
Yeah.
mine call me up when they get laid off, and I try to refer them this and that. They've submitted 100 resumes, not one call. The
Yeah.
minute I ping someone, at a company or anyone else, not just me, right? I'm not like tooting my own horn here, but anyone who can help their peers out. All they have to do is give them a name. Hey, they applied here. If you want to give them a shot, I'd appreciate it. They will get a phone call
Yeah.
back. And so, unfortunately,
I really
that's
like that.
yeah,
I mean, just in terms of like where it's always been and still is like life, success in life, career, anything else is like it's who you know.
it is.
And I actually, now that everything, like you said, the AI is making stuff weird, like it's like disconnecting people.
Yeah,
Yet if you want to go work somewhere, it now it's like even more relevant as to like what relationships do you have
it's almost
and like who do you
impossible.
know.
It's almost impossible if you don't know somebody. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very unfortunate. And I don't know if remote work had something to do with this as well, with people double or tripling up their remote work gigs and kind of not doing much on one or two of them and getting paid three times the amount. That might have something to do with it too, where
Yeah.
people are losing trust, right? Losing trust in hiring individuals they don't know, individuals they know nothing about. So it
Yeah.
might have been pre AI that this happened, but even when we started, I mean, it was much easier to get into a new company if you knew somebody there, right? So
Well, especially in the era that you and I both came up in, where like my experience in the 90s and into the 2000s was if you're a smart kid that like knows computers,
right,
it was there was low supply, high demand.
yeah,
And you're
yeah,
like, hey, I've got a certification that's in demand. I've got X number of years of experience on a platform that's in demand, which actually makes so one of the things I think about when I when I think about talking to students and thinking about talking to people that are trying to explore a career of in any field is okay, so you're in high school. Let's say you are 4 to 8 years out from like your job because you're going to go through a college course or something. If you're going to pick your specialty, go look at the job descriptions of that specialty and see what they want so that you can try to target meeting those requirements in the future.
right.
Now, the AI thing twists that around a little bit because stuff is weird and like the things that are going to be existing in 1 year from now, let alone 4 or 5 or 10. I mean, who knows? But
Right.
what what things might young people look at as like, okay, so I go and I learn the stuff, I read the books, I do the capture the flag, I do the Cyber Patriot program, I start to explore some skills and explore like niches of what part of the OSI layer do I enjoy most,
Right.
and what defense, offense, all this stuff. Um, what what do you look for? So if you're let's say you're hiring somebody to join you on the offense side, and let's say it's a person that's younger in their career, you're going to hire a junior person. How do you shuffle through those 100 resumes or 1,000 resumes? What stands out as, oh, that person might be interesting to talk to? Is it as simple as X number of years of experience on the tool set that we use the most, or like how do you shuffle through the stack?
No, not at all. Again, following kind of the way I like to do things myself is, are they passionate about what they're going to be doing for me, right? And that's simple, because if you're not passionate, it's going to be dread on you, right? Every time you wake
Yeah,
up, you don't feel like doing it, and I don't want that guy doing what I need him to do if he doesn't feel like doing it, right? You're going
yeah,
to do it 10 times better if you wake up and you're super excited to, like, find some OD on a router, or,
yeah,
or secure my customer's Azure instance, right? Like, if you're all about that, look, no hacker's going to get my stuff because I secured it, right? Like, if you're all about that, rock and roll.
yeah.
I loved it. I love it because I don't want to do it, right? Like, I hate Azure. I hate the cloud. I hate everything cloud.
Right.
Am I aware of them? Yeah. Can I break into them? Yeah. I'll like, do I want to sit there and build it for someone? Absolutely not, right? But if I need someone to do that, I'm gonna hire the guy who's eating and dreaming and blogging and making videos about it and just constantly talking and that's the reality of it. Uh, that's basically number one. Right? Is he a self starter? Is he a self goer? Right? Can he do things? And you're always you yourself are always your hardest critic, whether you think about it or not, right? And
Yeah.
and that's one thing that I do pay attention to as well. Is he completely ego driven, right? He wants praises and he wants that, or is he humbled by himself, right? Oh, when I fail, I take it personal, right? Like I don't like failing. I would like to say I never fail because I just keep trying. But
Yeah.
if you never fail, you never learn. So that's kind of a misnomer. But
Yeah.
you brought up some good points that I like to look at quite a bit as well. These boot camps are destroying people's fundamentals. There's cyber boot camps, there's
Yeah.
coding boot camps, Ajax boot camps. There's all kinds of silly boot camps that are available out there for an exorbitant amount of money, right? 15 to twenty five
Oh yeah.
thousand dollars for 12-week boot camps is insane. Don't do that, guys. They say job placement, they're lying, right? My
Yeah.
brother went through one, right? He did not get job placed. His son went through it with him. There went tens of thousands of dollars. His
Ooh.
son's still unemployed, right? So
Wow.
don't do that. What I look for is, does that mean that all bootcamp goers are bad hires? Absolutely not. We have hired in the past bootcamp goers and they do fine. But again, it's
Yeah.
about the passion. It's about whether or not it's in them to keep learning and keep,
Yeah.
educating themselves. But number, and I don't even know what number I'm in. Number two, number three, to focus on like what I like to look at is almost everyone coming out of school, university, or boot camps forgets fundamentals, right? Forgets that everything literally runs on top of IP. And if you don't speak IP, then I don't want to speak to you, right? And
Dude,
that's
that's the quote. That is the quote of, I'm sure that's the quote of this entire conversation. Because, and of course, by IP, you're talking internet protocol, like
internet
the
protocol,
IP and
right?
TCP
Right.
IP.
The foundation
If
of
you
the
don't
internet.
speak
Yes.
IP, then I don't want to speak to you.
Yes. Yes. I don't want to speak to you. And I always poke fun at
Right.
again going back to my QA days when I first started. I really wanted to learn to program, right? Because I didn't know programming. Um, and I would constantly shoulder surf my development team because they were older than me and they were always coding, and I was intrigued by it. But there was this one time where I was shoulder surfing this developer, and I'm watching what they're doing, and they're copying code that they wrote for some web server communications. Well, they just changed the port on the code snippet that they're playing with to port 25, which speaks SMTP, and then they're all
Yeah.
frustrated because they're not talking. And I'm scratching my head like, what am I missing, right? Like I'm the new guy here. I don't really know how to code. But if you're connecting, you know, uh, uh, an air pipe to a hydraulic fluid pipe, right? Like it's not gonna work. Like it just they're two different comms, right? And so I don't remember who's the guy or girl, but the developer was trying to just copy and paste some code without understanding the underlying communication protocols, and it was essentially trying to get port 25
Yeah.
SMTP or email protocol to communicate with a web server, and sure that can happen, but not over the SMT or HTTP protocol, right? Like there has to
Right.
be some callbacks. There has to be some level playing field. And so if you don't understand the
Yeah.
foundations of how IP works, then you have no business trying to do cyber. You
Yeah.
know,
Right. Because I mean, what is there nowadays, especially now, that doesn't ride on top of IP? Like
nothing,
nothing.
nothing. When we started, there was out of band protocols, right? SCADA is still kind of
Yeah.
around, but now we have all these like SCADA to IP or adapters that basically take the old legacy systems that speak, X25 or whatever the SCADA protocols were, and
Yeah.
they're tunneled into IP. So even those are now IP based, right? And we never even went full throttle on IPv6. We're still on IPv4, which I think is just not going to change now, And
I know.
so
To be honest, my career was such that as IPv6 was coming on, I was like less sort of like technically hands on, and I learned IPv4 to an extent, but IPv6 to me is like I don't even know. I don't even know what to do with it. I
yeah,
don't even know how to deconstruct the address range.
right, yeah, it's the same. I
Yeah.
can tell you if it's a local address or I can tell you if it's a routable address. That's about it, And
Yeah.
I've read a lot about it 15 years ago, but because it's not prevalent, it's not, dominating anything anywhere, I don't mess with it much.
Yeah, right.
Are
Because it
there?
kind of seems like IPv6 was like, let's put every endpoint on the internet and have all these address spaces. But as it turns out, we don't put every endpoint on the internet. We put every endpoint behind a
Mhm.
gateway of some sort.
Yeah,
And so IPv4 kind of sticks around a little bit.
yeah, yeah.
But
That's the reality of it. I mean, and I'm glad we did, because putting every endpoint on the internet, you know how that's going to go.
not easy,
As it
right?
is,
I
we
know.
already have,
Yeah.
as it is, we already have IoT devices compromised left and right. Yeah, if we put
Oh
everything
my
on the internet,
God.
it'll be a very fun DDoS world.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I think we learned enough like to hopefully to not do that, but I'm not
You'd,
sure.
you'd be surprised. Yeah.
Um, so this is really interesting. I like it really comes down to passion and demonstrating the passion. What's a good way what's a good way for a young person to show they've never met you before, they're trying to put down on a resume, they're trying to put down a thing. Is it like, here's my for lack of a better term, portfolio, like here's the side projects that I do, here's my GitHub repos where I've done a thing. How can you look in from the outside as a potential employer
Yeah.
and say, well, that person actually, look at that guy or look at that gal, she's 22, she's 19, she's got all these interesting side projects, she's clearly has some passion. Like, what are some examples of things that you've seen that
Right. Right.
demonstrate that?
So it'll change with everyone you're trying to give an opportunity to, right? Like, I have a, and it's a little blurry because it was a long time ago, but my very first hire at my last company that I ran, was a guy who had a degree in chemistry. He was not a science major. He wasn't a math guy. He wasn't a programmer. Um, but I spoke to him at a shared space. We had it was a vintage, like, assembler programming, like graphics type event that they had at this shared space center that we
Amazing.
were at. It was actually pretty cool. A lot of people brought pizza,
Awesome.
like those old Sunbox pizza boxes, and they had done a
Oh
whole
yeah.
bunch of ASCII games with music, and the music was all digital. It was all part of, like, the coding,
Oh,
and it was all in
awesome.
assembler. It was really cool. It's something that I'm not nerdy enough to do that, but it was awesome. I was really impressed. But he was there, and he was kind of like just watching, right? And then he busts out his backpack, and he has like all these antennas and all these stuff, and I'm like just looking at him because he looked really young. He was probably around 22 years old, 21 years old, and he just starts like going off on these tools he's been playing with, and all of them revolved around like RF hacking, right? And so I just kind of asked him like, hey, what's your, because I wasn't big on RF back then, or radio frequencies, right? Like radios. And so I
Yeah.
asked him what's your background? And he goes, oh, I'm a chemist. I was like, I work for a pharmaceutical company as an intern. And I was like, oh, all right, that's a little strange, but like, aside from, I don't know, playing with, like, ions or whatever chemists do, I don't know what they do. Uh, what do you
Yeah.
what are you doing here? And he just goes off on like how he's been playing with these radio frequency modules, and he's been trying to hack like this old BlackBerry thing, plugged in an ESP32 to it, and like trying to open garage doors. And then just like go for like 20 minutes, right? And I could tell he just loved what he was trying to do, right? And so
Yeah.
we kept talking, and eventually I needed help pen testing, and I asked him like, hey man, you want to do some hacking? Like some actual hacking, like for a customer of mine. And so I gave him a shot, and I guided him through out of it. And then after that, he worked for me for 3 years, 3.5 years.
Oh, no
Um,
way. That's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. So he taught me a lot. We actually released 6 O days during that time that he worked for me. Um,
Wow.
yeah, he would find entry points, but he couldn't exploit them, and so I would jump on it with him, and then we'd exploit that one, and then we'd find another bug on this modem or router. I forget what it was. It was an Aris modem or router of some type, and eventually we ended up with six, like a whole chain of, and we released them because we tried uh, doing the full disclosure thing with the provider. They tried suing us for it, and so I cut communications with them, and it was like,
Oh
man, we're trying to
man.
help you here, and so
Yeah.
We ended up just dumping them on the internet. 0 days unfortunately exposing about 200,000 devices on the net. But it got plugged pretty quickly.
Wow.
So yeah, it's not
Yeah.
necessarily
Right.
my
It's
style of
like,
doing things, but I couldn't get the vendor to participate. So
it's kind of funny, man. Like, it's like, we see vendors do that from time to time, or you hear about them in the news or something, or you find out that they
hmm
ignored a report. It's like, it's funny. It seems short sighted sometimes. It's hard, I hate to sort of judge from the outside on what's going on inside of a company, but it's like, if you have tried to like avoid the embarrassment now, well, then it gets dumped on the internet, and then that's bigger and worse.
right,
So,
right, and I get it. It feels like you're being personally attacked, right? Going back to the developer mindset where you only need to mess up one time and some hacker's gonna make fun of you, right? Um,
yeah,
sure, but in this case, we deliberately told them that their customers were exposed, and we're just trying to help, right? We're just trying to help you plug these
yeah,
bugs. There's a lot of them. It's not just one or two. It was six. All of them remotely
wow,
accessible. One of them was like hard coded backdoor keys, and so it was like
wow,
this is at this point this is carelessness. It's not so much that you just missed a couple of things, right?
yeah.
So
They're
yeah,
just
yeah,
hoping that nobody ever found it.
it's infuriating when they come after you for trying to help them, right? Especially trying to help them
Yeah,
correctly. I didn't just dump them on the internet
yeah,
without telling them. I
yeah.
dumped them after telling them.
Right. It's like, hey, all right, if you guys don't want them,
Yeah,
well,
yeah, they didn't want to play
we'll
ball,
get them
so
addressed one way or another.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Interesting, man. Okay, yeah, that's great. So it's like, right, if you're the kid that shows up with a backpack full of antennas, you know, and you're at like a hacker space, or a like a meetup, or and maybe that's what it. Okay, so is there something there perhaps of like, so you live in a town, you're doing a thing. Um, I think a lot of big cities have meetups and have hacker spaces, and
yeah,
these co-working spaces and stuff.
absolutely,
Do you think that's a good idea for young people? Is like, go and find an event that's near you, that's roughly in your field of interest, and just go and show up and see who you end up hanging out
absolutely,
with?
absolutely. I mean, there are they announced quite a bit, but there's these things called industry days that are generally aimed at like the DIB, right? So the defense contracting world is a whole bunch of those where bases and agencies and even defense contractors will show up for like a hiring event or for doing talks, kind of trying to promote, people to apply them career days and things like that. Those are great. You can always do all those, and they're fairly open. Generally, to students, not so much to vendors, right? But they're open to students
Hmm.
and young enthusiasts. Um,
Yeah,
but I mean, 2025, right? The internet and the commercialization of the internet has been around for all 40 years now. There's an event going on every
wow,
weekend in any major city, right? It might not be
yeah,
cyber focused, but everything has cyber in it now, right?
yeah,
So you
yeah,
could still network, you could still go, and you could still talk to people and meet them and show that you're interested in it, and it gives you a little bit to talk about for the next event, right? Oh, I just saw this technology that's doing this. What do you feel about? How do you feel about it, right? At your next event, and that'll
yeah,
spark up a conversation. It shows that you know a little bit, even though you're in high school, which is impressive, and so those
yeah.
are things little tricks that I teach. I take my niece and my nephew. They just graduated high school. I take them to B-side San Antonio every year, and they've been going since ninth grade. And so they're
Wow.
they're loving the lock picking villages. They love the talks. Sometimes they play the CTF, sometimes they don't because they get embarrassed or whatnot. But yeah, I've been taking them every year, and it's been fun. I mean, it's been good for them too. People recognize them, they recognize people, some of the vendors, things like that. So yeah.
Yeah. See, that's, I mean, that's got right. That's such a huge thing.
hmm
Just because I feel like that's a good corollary from a time scale perspective of like setting expectations. I think that sometimes when people ask me questions like this, like, how do I get into cybersecurity? Often in the back of my mind is something that says that, like, well, to start with, recognize that there's nothing that's fast or quick about this.
Right.
Like, if you want to learn how to break a thing, you first have to learn the thing.
Right.
Like, you can't, like, I mean, and take it and compare it to a mechanical system. If you want to be a good auto mechanic, Well, you need to know deeply about what's happening inside the engine with every single cycle, and like if the cycle sounds off and you can picture in your mind the the ignition and the fuel and all the timing, and you can start to diagnose stuff. And so it's like in a
Right.
computer system, it's a much more complicated version of that, where you need to understand the mechanism, understand the fundamentals. Because I totally agree, man. Like the boot camp stuff, there's all these layers of abstraction with technology, especially in
Hmm.
computer systems, like especially in software systems. And now all the hardware things, like you were saying, are becoming virtualized and
Right.
software defined networks and software defined radios and all this
Yeah.
stuff. And so there's all these layers of abstraction where you can learn the abstraction, which is like a JavaScript framework, or you can learn what's under that and under that and under that. And the deeper you can go, the more truly you can understand the fundamentals, so that when the thing breaks in the JavaScript framework, if it breaks in a fundamental way, like you're like the folks that you were shoulder surfing and they're like using the wrong port and not understanding why the pipes aren't hooking up,
Hmm.
you quickly understand like, oh, of course, it's like that's not going to work because there's a
Right.
fundamental thing.
Yeah.
And so I think like it's perhaps worthwhile, like letting just saying that like this stuff takes time. Like if you're going to go to events, it's not going to be the first event where somebody's going to see you with the antennas in your backpack necessarily, and oh, hey man, I've got a job for you. It's going to be the third and the fourth and the fifth and the 10th and
Right.
the 20th, where you're learning and learning and learning. So you're not there to promote yourself, you're there to learn. And if you're
Right.
there to learn, then by the virtue of the process, you're exposing your passion.
Exactly.
And maybe that's
Yeah.
what somebody like you will notice, that
Exactly.
like, that kid over there, he's been here 6 times and he just comes here on his own. He's not trying to pitch himself. He's just trying to learn. Let me go talk
Right.
to that kid.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Right on.
and and get advice from, if you go to like, you go to a networking event, and because it's very easy to be blown away or wowed away by some of these people that are like really good at giving talks, but
Yeah.
but but they're not talking anything sensical, right? Like I went to a this is a very, and I'm not going to mention the company name, but it's a $1 billion company organization, and I went and I saw their red team lead give a talk at an FCA conference. And I swear to God, I wanted to put myself in a closet just being associated to him, because we both worked for the same large company. It was embarrassing, right? Like I went around and I spoke to some of the juniors, and I told them, listen, man, that is not the way to get into pen testing. Do not listen to a word this guy just said. I have no idea why he's up
Don't
there,
listen to that guy.
but do not. I mean, and you need to, as you're starting off, you don't know the difference, right? He was wowing everybody that was in there because he made it look like it was easy.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and if you don't have anyone to ask, you're gonna fall down the wrong path. And so you hit the nail on the head when you said, like, if you can't build it, you can't break it. And you might get lucky the first time and break in, right? Because you're following a tutorial, or because you remembered something you did in the past and you kind of go through. But when your customer comes to you and says, "Hey, that's awesome that you broke in. How do I fix it?" Right? And you're like,
Yeah.
right? Like, then who's gonna look silly? Who's gonna look stupid? Right? And
Yeah.
and that's even more embarrassing than failing at breaking into something, because before I realized that you need to learn how to build things before you can break into them, because breaking into them isn't really the end goal. The end goal is securing your customers in totality. Like,
Yeah.
you don't, it never clicks. You're just breaking into stuff, breaking into stuff, breaking into stuff. What's the purpose, right? We're not bad guys. I'm not a cyber criminal. I'm not stealing things. So that's not the purpose. The purpose is not to break in. The purpose is to find the flaws, to help your customers patch, to help the government you work for patch, to help someone keep secure, stay secure, keep your own home secure, right? That's the purpose. You can break into
Yeah.
stuff all day by following tutorials, but if you don't know how to fix them, you could, because you never built it. What's the whole point? What's the point of anything? You're just a script kiddie, right? Like, so.
Yeah. You know what, man? Like you just addressed something that I've been thinking about for a long time, that I you just gave me some new perspective on, which is I've often found that And I've told people that, like, hey, just so you know, if you're going to get into being a professional security person, there's not a lot of success metrics. It's kind of hard to succeed. Like security people from if you're if you're an executive at a company and part of your budget is to fund a security team, whether it's cybersecurity, physical security, whatever it might be, you learn their names if they fail,
Right.
right? You find out that, like, oh, I never knew Orlando works in our company. Well, I just learned his name because something blew up, you know?
Yeah.
But if you win, like success means that nothing happens.
Right.
And so,
Right.
but maybe you demonstrate success via the constructive approach that you just mentioned, which is my security expertise allowed me to find a hole. And not only could I find it, but then I came back and I said, here's how we fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's is that how you demonstrate success? Like how do you win in security in a corporate or even government security environment? How do you help from not just being the fall guy?
I mean that's very very role deterministic, right? Like it's a if you're a security guy, but you're in, sales engineering, or you're a sales, a business development or account rep, whatever. It's very easy to measure your success, right? Like you know security enough to speak well about it, and you wow your customers into buying your products. Your success is how
Yeah.
much money you bring to the company,
Yeah.
right? If you're a CISO, you get asked how many intrusions you stopped and how many intrusions you caught, and what was the time frame between the origin of the attack and the stop point, right? The triaging, the kill
Mm.
chain of the attack. So you can't necessarily say these are they're gonna change by role, right? For you as a person, I think if you're not learning week to week something new, right, and you're not growing as an individual, and not just in tech, right, but also in like how to talk to people, um how to not come across. I talk to network folks all the time, like even our own engineering team. A lot of my younger guys in our teams, they're not liked by the engineering team, right? And they have this like animosity with each other because my young guys have an ego. I can break into anything, right? My engineering guys are like, I need to keep production going, right? And so
Yeah.
my guys are making, trouble for the engineering guys. The engineering guys are like, stop it. And so I constantly have to intervene and be like, hey guys, my team, I get it. You're upset because there's a gaping hole or because there's, X and Y, Z is faulty or whatever, right? But you're whining and complaining and constant nagging at our IT guys isn't helping, right? How about you tell them the problem, and then you give them an idea as to how you would go about patching the problem or fixing the problem or resolving the problem, right? If you're
Yes.
just going to keep
Yes.
complaining, then the security guy that doesn't give solutions is just a whiner, right? We're just whining about security, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
we,
That's
we gotta
great, man.
we
Seeing it
gotta
all the
keep
way
that in
through.
mind. Yeah, absolutely. We gotta keep that in mind that we don't necessarily get paid to break into things. We get paid to secure things, even if we're doing the offensive side of things, right? Now, in offensive government, it's a different story. We want intelligence. We're breaking into something to get our intelligence, right? But that's most
Yeah.
of that stuff I can't talk about, anyways. But different roles, right? But in a corporate environment,
Yeah.
in a career-based environment, you always want to be able to speak to both sides. And the example I can give you very clear, it just happened to me this weekend where we were able to hijack an encrypted session, even though both sides of the application were pinning. They were basically checking and verifying the two certificates on both ends that they were talking. We got in the middle of it and were able to see. Thankfully, the application also had application encryption after underneath the TLS layer, right, the encryption layer.
Ah, right.
So typically, it's game over. You're like, okay, well, they're doing PKI, public key, infrastructure, or public key cryptography. Very difficult to break unless I get lucky and find the private key somewhere, right? We didn't find the private key anywhere, but we're able to subvert it by doing some Alice versus Bob type, playing where we in transit hijack the public key, replace it with my own, then things get encrypted with my public key. On the way back, I hijack it again, replace it with the server's public key. Now I have the encrypted key, and I can play with the comms, and so they basically incorrectly implemented PKI, or they didn't use like a Diffie-Hellman exchange, right? Which is fine
Ah,
because they have TLS layer. But when we got the win, I was talking to my other tester, and he was super excited. Oh man, we won! This is awesome! Oh my god, I can't believe we got this far, this and that. And I'm looking at him like, off the top of my head, I don't know how to fix this, right? And that's a problem because when I tell the customer, when I tell the customer, hey, we broke your software completely, I need to be able to fix it for him. And so, I started
yeah,
off, and this is again goes back to like communication, right? I started off very, and I'm not even like BSing my customer. This is 100% true. It was a very difficult, very non-trivial attack, right? Kudos to your development team, right? We were scratching our heads up until about the report was due, let's say, on the 10th day. We were scratching our heads up until about the eighth and a half day. We had like a day left in the
nice.
testing,
Yeah,
and that's when we broke
yeah,
everything, right? Like, so 100% your team did a phenomenal job. First, there's a database that the application had, and we were removing their key and adding our key to it, and the application would be like, nope, don't care, right? I know that's not my key. I'm not doing anything with it. And so
nice.
the code was all obfuscated. I couldn't read the code, even though I tried to deobfuscate it. It was non-readable. So I couldn't tell what was stopping the application from like looking at the database. And anyway, that went too long. The point is, if you can't answer your customer when he says, because he doesn't really care that I won, he cares so that the next person who tests it doesn't win, right? And
Yeah,
that's where I
yeah,
need to come in and say, this is how you fix it, right?
yeah.
And
Right.
so
That's a good point.
yeah, yeah. So it's okay not to know everything. Obviously, you're not gonna know everything. I sure didn't, right? But I went back and I've known about DH handshakes and proper ways to do key exchanges. I just went back, reread it all over again, and put it into our report, and the customer was happy, right? But that's huge because when my tester was super excited, I was excited, and then I was like, oh damn, like I shouldn't be this excited because I don't know how to tell him right now how to fix this, right? I have to go back and do a whole bunch of research. And so that's important.
Isn't that hilarious? Right,
It's
because it's
hilarious.
like
Yeah.
there's the passion part where you're like,
Hmm.
oh yes, we got it, and then
Yeah.
the businessman hat comes on, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh crap, like we're now like, so that's where the value, because I think about a lot of like the fundamentals for me when I think about work. I think about like a job. Most people, in my opinion, like a job is a value exchange. You're
Hmm.
going to give me a recurring salary or an hourly fee. And in exchange for that, I'm going to give you my time and my energy, and I'm going to produce value that exceeds the value of the salary, so that
Exactly.
ideally every employee has a positive ROI.
Right.
And so the way that you deliver value as a penetration tester is to actually find the problem,
Right.
but most importantly is bring the solution.
Bring the solution. Bring
Yeah,
the solution.
interesting.
Yeah. And
Yeah, and that's the
yeah,
hard part.
it is the hard part because sometimes you'll have, aside from having a pissed off engineering team, right? Like we do in our internal stuff. You can also have pissed off developers, right? Like you found bugs in their
Yeah,
code. Typically, the response we get is no, that doesn't happen, right? And it's like, oh, we have a full working
yeah,
exploit for it. Yes, it does, right? But
yeah,
that's unimportant. The important part is to explain to you, the developer, why it matters and why it's happening, right? And once we do that,
yeah,
then we're on their side because we're also helping them code. We're not literally writing the code for them, but we're bringing it down to a basic level to where they now say, "Oh, I see what you're saying," right? And if you can't
yeah,
convey that and you can't make friends with them by stooping down or just switching your perspective, right? And you being the developer, then you're always going to be facing an uphill battle. You're going to get
yeah.
yeah. So it's super
I
important.
I like that. I like that. It's one of the things that I try to do when I'm working with consulting clients. And this is something that took me a long time to learn, although it sounds real simple. It is real simple actually, but it's like it's asking the question, like, how do you define success? And so if your customer has hired you to do a penetration test, or if you're on a security team in a corporation and you're engaging with the software team or the network team, how do you define success? And so for the software team, the success is going to be, well, it's in delivering a functional application that isn't full of holes, and that when we come across a hole or a bug or whatever, that we have enough information to debug it and to reconstruct the problem, recreate the problem, and then fix the problem. So if you're like, so it's like, maybe that's the thing too, is like, ask the question up front. If you're going to do a security practice or a security engagement, is like, how will you know if we have succeeded?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. What is the goal of the pen test, right? And
Yeah.
that's a variable sliding, honestly, an anomaly, because some people will tell you, I want to see how far you can get as far as you want, right? If you can get
Yeah.
into the corporate business and then you can get into the executive's house, go, right? We've been told that
Yeah.
before, but we've also been told, mostly by larger corporations, if you can get into our DMZ or get past our reverse proxy, stop, right? I don't need you lurking around
Yeah.
my network, right? In my
It,
opinion,
it
that's
reminds,
wrong, but
yeah. No, go on, please. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and it changes drastically from engagement to engagement. You brought up and I don't remember exactly what you brought up right now, but it was a tangential move where um it was so developers
About defining
what
success, or like, what does success look like for the person that you're engaging with, kind of, or like, or
yeah
how do you
I,
bring value? Like, what's the value exchange, perhaps, or is that?
maybe it lit up in my head and then I lost it because we kept chatting. It'll come back to me. We'll come back to it.
It'll
No
come
worries.
back.
Yeah.
it, dude. I remember this story in the Northrop days where I got like a demo version or some kind of version of the early Palantir software. And I remember looking up, and I almost said her name. I won't say her. I remember looking up one of our very senior executives. Like, she had her own private elevator and she had her own like private driver and like a
Damn.
freaking armored car and all this kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And like, to get into her office, you had to go through like 7 different badge doors and all these things. And so
I know who
I
you're talking about.
remember,
I have a
yeah.
funny story about her too.
so so I found a bunch of information about her in the Palantir software, because Palantir, of course, connects all the disparate data sources, and you can craft a picture about who's talking to who and who's related to who. And I found a bunch of stuff that was related to her in there that was not desirable to be public information.
Right.
And I brought it to one of our colleagues on the corporate security team, the folks that were engaged with the information security for Northrop itself. And
That was
the
risky.
what you just described,
That was
it was,
risky
and
because it could have
you know
gone
what,
either
man,
way.
right, and I was like far too dumb to know that at the time. Like, it's hilarious being given a bunch of responsibility in your
Right.
20s over this.
Yeah.
Like, I was 27 when they made me the chief technologist. I'm like, okay, like, I don't even know how life works, let alone business. But so I bring this vulnerability to our security guys, and what you're describing is what actually where the failure was, because I didn't have a solution.
Right.
So he was like freaked out. Oh no, crap! Oh, we got to go tell her and like expose this thing. But like, what do we do? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. Like,
Right.
I wasn't helping necessarily.
Right. Right.
I was bringing a problem, but I wasn't bringing a solution
Right.
along with it.
Which is
So
difficult for the opposing party to swallow, right? And I guess
yeah.
just for the audience, right? I called out that was very risky because it could have gone the opposite way. It could have gone, well, Mr. Ben, why are you looking into our executive so much, right? Is this an
And
issue?
he
And
did
and
ask
then
that, by the way. Yeah.
yeah, you see, because at this point it feels like you're attacking them, right? Like, well, why? Well, I didn't do it with malice. I
Yeah.
did it to test the software. So I just happened to pick one of our executives, right? Well, what else did you find out
Yeah.
about the exec? And then next thing you know, you're in an HR office, right? That could have gone really bad. And I only
Yeah.
bring that up
Yeah.
because in my 20s, in my very, very before Northrop, I ran the security and the perimeter security and staging of all the security tools for one of Microsoft's largest conferences, Microsoft Tech Ed in San Diego.
Oh yeah. 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 Yeah.
And um, For some reason or another, at 2 in the morning, one of their devices, not that we brought, but the facilities devices, because we're working with the networking people of the facility, was, the San Diego Convention Center. So huge facility. This was 25 years ago. None of those people are there anymore. It doesn't matter. But I look at logs, and there's a weird string of characters that look very much like a password on a binary log in one of our servers. There's no other context. I can't even tell what the binary stuff is around it. It's just trashy, right? Just trash characters. And so I bring it up to the main network engineer, and I tell him, hey, this looks like a password. I don't know why it's on our logs, but you might want to change the password to whatever this is for. Well, he didn't know me very well because we were just there for an annual conference, right? Like, and that was the first time I had been there. And so he immediately went and told everybody that I had hacked one of their devices and grabbed their passwords and was bragging
Oh,
about it and yada,
damn.
yada, yada. Turned into a big deal. So they came to try to reprimand me, but because I had done absolutely everything possible to ensure that, one, we as the company doing this for Microsoft looked good, right? Didn't fail, didn't I was working 18-hour days that day, because we were remote. We were traveling, so I had nowhere to go. It was a hotel or keep working and hang out with the rest of the team. So I got really
Yep.
offended by them accusing me of doing this, and I basically quit. I said, okay, you know what? Here's everything. Here's my badge. Here's whatever. I'm going to go back to the hotel until this engagement is done, and I'll go back home. Um, the next day at about 9 p.m., they go in to wake me up at the room, and they're like, they want to give you an apology. They found out what it was. One of their admins came back from being on vacation, logged into the servers. He didn't realize logging was turned on. I don't know exactly what happened, but it turns out I
Yeah.
had absolutely nothing to do with it, right? Which is exactly what I told them. Not to mention, it
Yeah.
didn't benefit me at all to bring down their network, right? Like I was the one trying to keep it up for the conference. That was our
Yeah.
job.
You're there to help with that. Yeah.
Right, right. But being 22 years old, I didn't think about the fact that I'm bringing the root password to all of their Cisco devices in their
Is that
infrastructure
what it was?
to them. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so I should have I should have brought it up a lot more cautiously. Showed him where it came from exactly, not necessarily just on my laptop on a screen. And so
Yeah.
lesson learned, which is why I said, it's risky for you to bring that type of information to at the executive level because it could have gone really bad.
Right. Somebody who literally has dedicated security just for her,
Right. Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah. So
um dude, yeah, I want to ask more questions about, so by the way, thank you. I think that's like a nicely answered uh question. And like we've explored the question as much as we could without sitting down with an individual that's like has a nuanced situation. I really like the way that you addressed all the pieces of the question. Um, so just now, just for fun, just questions for you,
sure.
career wise, so that anybody that's watching up until this point, like if you'll know if cybersecurity is for you if you're still watching, because
Yeah.
if you haven't dropped off now, maybe this is for you.
Right.
Of like, wow, like all these terms and all these different scopes of looking at technology upside down and backwards and all this and that. If this sounds fun, okay, cool. Um, what, okay, what mistakes have you made that turned out to be like the most valuable lessons?
Um, mistakes, I guess. From a and this is like imposter syndrome, I guess, right? Like I always feel like I'm not good enough to be top tier in industry. Um, and because of that, and because again, I tell you, like you're your hardest critic all the time. I was very hard on myself when I was younger, and I refused to join any one of the startups that my peers were peeling into. Right, like they would start up a new company, they would invite me because they knew me, whatever, or the opportunity was there, even if they weren't inviting me to like help them or whatever. And then a lot of them early on, because cyber is now fairly mature, 20 something years old, right? Very early on, did some really cool stuff. And I stayed on the sidelines, right? Co- Consistently and constantly knowing that, I was up to par. I was up, in the same level that they were at, in 2005, 2008. Um, and then just constantly saying, no, I'll make my own way. I'll make my own way. I'll make my own way. But if I were to go back and do it again, it's not so much that I'm like, oh, I'm just writing the tales of these successful people. Not at all. I think what would have happened was, I think we would have, I would have learned a whole lot from them, on top of they would have learned a whole lot from me, because for the last 15 years, to my surprise, right? And I'm going to toot a little bit to myself here, but I've
Yeah.
gotten people, friends like yourselves, that look back and tell me, hey, man, thank you for all the advice. Thank you for being there. Thanks for believing in me. All this time, I've always looked up to you. And I'm like, it's a surprise. It's a really good surprise, but it's a surprise, right? I didn't think people
Yeah.
looked up to me. And that never even crossed my mind, right? And so,
Yeah.
um, don't don't do that. If you see opportunities, and you see people that could, one, be your mentor, or two, that you look up to a lot, and you find opportunities to work with them, go for it, man. There's Put your ego away, right? Don't do what I did. I missed a whole lot of opportunities, a whole lot of startups that I could have essentially at this point retired myself, right? Um,
Yeah.
but that's not what I'm mad about, right? Or that's not what I'm upset about, or that I regret. Yes, it'd be phenomenal to be sitting on $100 million like some of these people are, but
Yeah.
I think the journey of building what they built along with them, and helping them provide value to that, um, would have been 10 times more rewarding than just the payoff,
Yeah.
right? And so
Yeah.
don't do that. If you find opportunities, don't feel like you're not good enough. If you're not good enough, they're not going to give you the opportunity, right? But if you are,
Yeah.
and if they think you remotely are, then take it and go and run with it. You know?
Man, the imposter, I still to this day, I feel imposter syndrome, whenever I embark on something new. This family IT guy thing, right? People come to me asking me questions, which eventually sort of led me into, okay, let me actually do this. Am I the right guy for the job? Yes. Am I competent? Am I capable? Yes. Is it scary? Is it weird? Do I have imposter syndrome? Yes.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
but it's a good point, man, because it's like, how do you, if it's always a learning process, then therefore it's always a stretch. And like, maybe if you feel imposter syndrome, like, I don't know if that means you're in the right place, but maybe that means you're in the right place. Maybe that means you're
Yeah.
pushing, you know, um, and attach, like, being around people that are building value and that want you to build it with them is a very special thing.
It is.
Very, very special.
It is, and always look inside again. Right, following your passion. And I'll give you a quick example as to why I mentioned this. It's super important. Um, when I built my first company, No Motion, I didn't know that as the founder and as the CEO of the company, I had to do all the selling. I just assumed we do some good work on some contracts, and the contracts will keep coming, right? Like, or
Right.
I probably
Yeah.
didn't even think about it, to be fair,
Yeah.
but that's kind
I
of
could
where I was.
relate.
And so after about 4.5 years of not wanting to be the CEO because I hated waking up in the morning, right? I finally sat down, and honestly, I think my wife helped too. She said, "Why are you miserable if you're running your own company? Sell it, get rid of it, stop it, do something else, right? You're killing
Yeah.
yourself. You're waking up and you're upset. You don't want to go to your office, and your office is 10 feet away, and in the next room. So once in a while, if you're having really really bad consecutive months, days, weeks, stop, right? And take a look at what it is you don't like about your life, and pivot, right? I did not want to be the guy who sells. I hate BD work. I hated,
Yeah.
networking and going to networking places all the time to consistently keep trying to sell. I didn't want to wake
Yeah.
up in the
It's
morning. I
tough.
hated it. And
Yeah.
so I made the
Yeah.
decision to leave that gig. We sold off the software division. I diluted most of our cyber contracts, and I kept a handful of them, and then built a new company. And now I don't sell. I don't sell at all. We're building internal products. We're hopefully gonna launch,
Oh, wow.
um, at some point in the next 6 to 18 months, and then we'll take it slow from there, because there's really no rush, right? I'm not in any rush. I'm comfortable. Everything's good, and I don't want to be selling again. So yeah.
Man, I tell you, that's one of the harshest lessons I've ever learned in business is business. Is that
Yes.
the most the most important part of a business, no matter what those technical guys like us want to think, is sales and marketing. And that you can't do the fun stuff unless you sell it,
Yeah.
unless you can fund it,
Yeah.
and like unless it's profitable. And how many people are great at both? And how many people enjoy both? Like that's a very, very, not, to say it's unusual would be an understatement.
Right.
Like to do,
Right.
it's such a different skill set. It's such a different personality type,
Yeah. 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 It's difficult. Those who like the tech world are typically more introverted. Those who love, talking to people and doing things like sales or not, they
Yeah.
enjoy, going out and traveling the world and meeting people and shaking hands and whatnot. So,
Yeah. All right. So I got another couple of questions for you. So what exploits have you built or found that have been the easiest, where you've like, the ratio of like impact to work input was high, and like which ones were the hardest, and maybe which are the most fun?
um, that's and I think most vulnerability researchers will tell you this. It's a roller coaster, all the time. You find a bug in something you were auditing, and it might have taken you a month, right, to finally figure out the exploit completely. And so you're sitting on a high, right? Damn, I'm awesome. I can exploit things. I can still find bugs at my age, whatever, right? Because it truly is the case. At my age, it's harder because we don't have the time to sit 25 hours a day, writing code and
Yeah.
playing with things. Like we have kids, we have family, we
Yeah.
have other duties, and so it's difficult. While a 19, 18, 16-year-old can sit there for weeks on end and hack away at one thing, right?
Yeah.
And so keeping up with that is difficult. That was the advantage
Yeah.
we had when we were younger. But it is a roller coaster nonetheless. I would say 10 years ago, auditing firmware was ridiculously fruitful, right? It was because nobody was looking at firmware. It was harder. The tool sets weren't there. Um, reading, code off of chips wasn't particularly possible 10, 12, 15 years ago. At least not with a huge commercial machine, right? Costing tens of thousands of dollars. Now that's not the case. I mean, I don't have one on my desk right now, but I mean, you can literally buy, a Shikra or a Pi even, and use the GPIOs, the pinouts, to start reading data off of chips with small wires, right? And so
Oh,
it's
really?
gotten a lot easier. Yeah, absolutely. You can buy off the
Wow.
shelf stuff that you can plug in and start looking at UART, SPI, flash in, flash off.
Wow.
Like you can do all kinds of stuff. That was the easiest, I'd say, 10 to 12 years ago. It's still probably the lowest bar out there as far as like finding new bugs with not a high commitment, right? Before that, I'd say web vulnerabilities were the easiest because the evolution of the web was in its infancy, right? It was basically going straight up at that point. Technologies like
Yeah.
C Sharp, Ruby on Rails, all these frameworks that were coming out, Django, and all these PHP frameworks and all these crazy Laravel, MVC frameworks that were coming out were being pumped out. I mean, uh, in crazy amounts, right? And so people were just picking them up and slapping them on WordPress, picking up plugins and slapping them on whatever framework they want. And the vulnerabilities were you can literally Google for things like file equals, right? And you'd find file include bugs, you'd find arbitrary read bugs, and on the internet everywhere, right? And
Yeah.
so um, nowadays, I can audit a router, a commercial router, Soho router from Best Buy for 3 months straight and not find a bug at all, right? Like I own an Amplify router that I got super
Oh, yeah.
expensive. I bought it because I'm like it's really expensive. Hopefully nobody's looked at this yet, and I can find some cool bugs in it, right? Let me just order this,
Yeah.
and it's a write off to me. So I'm like, yeah, let's do this. I was excited, man. I've audited that thing on 3 different updates. I can't find a single bug in it. And get this. When I first started looking at it, the entire interface, the entire web interface, is written in Bash. No joke. It's written in Bash shell.
Really?
The interpreter um, reads Bash and Bash prints and echoes generate the website from templates. It's
No
hilarious.
way. That kind of like generates the data that like
Right.
that paints the
Right. And
site.
when I first
Whoa.
saw
Wow.
that, I
Okay.
was like, oh my God, they just gave me the win. Like, this is going to be easy. I'm going to find injections
Yeah. Thanks,
everywhere.
guys.
Yeah. No, no, wasted so much time. 3 months of my life have been wasted trying to hack my own router, and I cannot hack the damn thing. So kudos to the Amplify guys for this. Or I missed some latent bugs that someone else is going to easily find. But nonetheless, it's a roller coaster. You can be on a high, and then for 3, 4, 5 months you can be on a low. Now, obviously, if you go to the more popular, heavier use tech, right? Auditing Alexa, auditing AWS components, auditing Android or iOS
Oh
for
yeah.
ODay, right? Like,
Yeah.
um, you're gonna have a really hard time. In fact, there's a really good talk by the Project Zero lead. It's a girl. I think her name is Maddie, Madby. I don't remember her last name, but she's a Google Project Zero vulnerability research team. She's the lead for that team,
Hmm.
and she did a really good talk on auditing RCS, the new text messaging protocol that
Oh
you can
yeah.
do
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
data and stuff through. Um, she didn't find anything. It was an hour long talk, but it was a phenomenal talk,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
Again, if you can get to that talk, then you like security, you like cyber. If you cannot get to that talk, you might want to figure out what you want to do. Um,
I see. There's like a threshold test there. See if you
yeah,
can, yeah,
most
go watch
definitely.
that, see what you think.
She
Yeah.
she she's a good speaker, so it's not terribly dry, but it is dry material because she's talking about the way she approached the audit of the code that she was reverse engineering on her phone. So, but
Nice.
you're waiting for the O day she's gonna find, and there isn't one. She didn't find anything, and so
Wow.
it was no matter what, right? No matter what I don't want to call it a spoiler, even though I just kind of gave the ending because it's a very interesting approach, and she gives, even for like a senior 25-year plus cyber veteran like myself, I learned a lot from her talk, right? And it eases my, oh man, I just spent 3 months on this router and I can't find a single bug, right? Like, it's demoralizing sometimes. But that reminds you, if
Yeah.
someone as famous as her is auditing software and is spending all this time, and then she comes back and says, this is the state we're in now, right? I didn't find a damn thing. It makes me
Wow.
feel like I'm human, right? Like, okay, I'm normal. Yeah, I'm not losing my
Right.
cyber skills here. Yeah.
Really haven't lost your edge. Yeah.
Right.
Reminds me of the top. There's a line about that in Top Gun, I think. Losing your edge, but
Losing it. Yeah.
yeah. Um, that's great, man. That's it's the process, right? Like maybe that's the thing. There's like there's the excitement of when you reach the goal, if you capture the flag, if you find a bug, if you provide a solution. But it's like, on the way there, do you enjoy the process? And is it fun?
Right.
Like, do you find yourself thinking about what was spit out of the router the day before while you're in the shower,
Right.
or while you're driving to the gym or something?
Right. Right. Right.
That's how you know you're hooked, I guess.
Absolutely. I think about a lot of the times when I'm not in my element, I like thinking about like perspectives, right? Like, what would a non-techie person want to play with that I haven't looked at yet? And it might be that 90% of the researchers that have looked at this, software, router, hardware, whatever, have skipped through because they don't care about it, but the users do, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that's what you want to attack because it's been audited the least, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
What's like, to close the conversation here, what's a couple potential paths? Like, what's like sort of a final piece of advice, or if you could change any one thing about the broad practice of cybersecurity, like, what would you change?
This is probably only to a select group of people that might think in the same terms of the way I think, right? Um, I love hacking. I love being able to break into things. It's getting harder and harder as time goes by, right? But I hate the concept of bug crowd and bug sourcing things, bug bounties. I hate them because in my eyes, it feels like they're commoditizing our skill sets, right? Like for
Yeah.
we've been learning and we've been, trying very hard to effectively stay on top of our game from a security perspective, only to realize that they're paying 16-year-olds and third world individuals, pennies on the dollar for what they would normally get paid a lot more for because of their background, because of the foundations they have, because of the amount of effort they put into it. Um, and so it annoys me when bugs are squashed on competitions, Kansec West has a Prune to Own, right? And they
Yeah.
burn bugs every year. They burn bugs every single year. And while some of that, I'm like, okay, well, that's great because like then governments can't hack reporters, journalists can't kill them, they can't track whatever, right? Like that's good. Um, it's also bad for me because like, well, I like Ode, I like hacking, I like being able to have something in my back pocket to have an edge, right? And all that's going away without putting a significant amount of effort into finding new bugs. So, but again,
Oh,
it's probably
interesting.
very
Right.
biased. Yeah. Uh,
Yeah, it's the commoditization.
yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of that going on right now because of a lot of the large language model stuff. And like, I feel like we're at this point where we're going to soon, if not already, start to really grapple with like what what pieces of the puzzle are commodities truly, which ones seem like they're commodities, but they're actually not, just because of the media makes it might seem one way or
Right.
the other, but the reality is different. And like, where does the value really lie? I mean, if you look at software development as a practice right now, is certainly one that's under heavy scrutiny from that, probably from anybody that's budgeting anything. It's like, is it, what pieces of it have already become a commodity?
Right.
What pieces of it are not yet a commodity? So like for example, this it's just fascinating. It's very fascinating to me about the ability to like generate code with an LLM. It's like I realized recently that it used to be that a software engineer was also inherently a software developer.
Right.
Like you can't be a software engineer without also being and having been a software developer.
But without having
One builds
implemented
on
it. Yeah.
top of the other,
Right.
right? Like you can't become an architect unless you know how to swing a hammer.
Right.
And interestingly, those two practices of engineering versus development in the software world are now becoming divorced to where you can be, in a sense, sometimes a software engineer without being a software developer.
Agreed.
You know,
Agreed. And that's a very important point, because and I always give this analogy to people who tell me that AI is amazing, right? Like I am, and don't get me wrong, AI is very helpful. As far as it being
yeah,
amazing, I don't want to go down that path, but no, it's not, right? Not
same.
yet, right?
Right. Not yet.
Conceptually, absolutely, it's amazing, and I think it's going to
Yeah.
get better. But
Yeah.
um, if I go to an AI and I ask it as a non-medical practicing doctor, right? Like I don't know anything about medicine or surgery, for example, right? But if I go to an AI and I tell it, hey, I want to remove my gallbladder because I have gallstones, right? And it gives me
Yeah.
full instructions and it gives me pictures and diagrams and what you need and how to, right? Does that mean I can now do it? No, right? One, because I've never
Right.
done it
Not at
before
all.
and it's a critical thing to do, right? Not at all.
Yeah.
Two, and
Yeah.
most importantly, and this is the thing I want to highlight, most importantly, and it goes across all industries, is I know nothing about the industry, so I can't check the validity of the data and instructions it gave me, right? And that
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
there is key to learning to use AI properly. Stay within your realm,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Unless you're doing something silly for a school project or for a game or building a potato gun and you wanted to make it, that's fine. Like that's for fun. Nobody gets hurt. Hopefully, potato guns can hurt you, but you
Right.
know what I mean.
Right. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
right, but the thing is, like non-software engineers, as you just said, are writing software now and releasing software, and that's a problem because they do not know how
Oh
to
yeah.
look at the code, the applications being built for them, and say, "Hey,
Yeah.
that's wrong. What? Why are you doing it this way?" Right? And so, and I, very
Dude.
quickly, do you remember when Barnes and Noble was like the place to go because it had all the best and the newest tech books. And I used to love it. I
Oh, oh yeah, yeah,
go get
yeah,
some coffee, read a whole bunch of books, maybe buy another one. Right.
yeah,
During that era, security boomed because developers would go to a Barnes and Nobles, order a book on Amazon if it was around back then, order a book, get the book, and copy examples verbatim from the book. And if that
yeah,
book had a bug in a security issue in that, we would see that security issue prominent everywhere for years on end, and it was phenomenal for
yeah,
us, right?
yeah,
What's happening with
yeah,
AI is exactly the same thing. AI spits
yeah,
out some code, and it'll spit it out to 1,000 people. And if it's buggy, that same
dude.
code will be used 1,000 times, right? Because those people don't have the
Yeah,
background to, yeah,
I think that. Ah, man, we're due for quite a reckoning in the software world, and I'm really not excited about that because, as it turns out, there's no difference between the functioning of the real world versus the software world because it's all intertwined. There's no industry,
there's
there's
almost
no
nothing that doesn't have
commerce,
software in it.
there's
Yeah,
no yeah, there's no government, there's no infrastructure, there's no logistics that isn't powered by software
exactly.
and that runs over IP.
Right,
And it was already bad enough, I think, in that a bunch of software company, we you and I really lucked out with like the time that we were born because we got to be in the place to say like you can't do the IT stuff without the fundamentals in the
right,
90s and then the 2000s. You literally can't, right?
right,
And then all of a sudden there was more demand than there was supply of skill. And so then all, boot camps and all these things like we need to create more IT people. We need to create more software people, more security people, like especially the security people.
right,
You just see this explosion of like, there's all these people that have these credentials but like don't understand the fundamentals, and then now there's these systems that don't work right, and then the AI thing is like, my god, there's things that it's suggested to me that I put into infrastructure, put into code, put into architecture that are like, whoa, if I didn't know enough to say no, I'm not doing that because that's crazy,
yeah,
then some of my software that's in production right now would
yeah,
be full of some terrible, terrible holes. And oh boy, because it's like nobody's going to know that when they go to implement the thing and let's say it functions, right? Okay, cool. We have a new app out there. It does a thing. And then maybe there's critical data in there. And then now that critical data is just getting sucked up by all kinds of third parties. And, we're due for a reckoning. And I'm really, like I said, I'm not excited about it. I think it's,
yeah,
there's a lot of pending chaos, but I hope so. Certainly, we have an opportunity now, and we will have more opportunities in the future to like identify lessons learned and try to embed those into these practices that we participate in. Hopefully, we'll learn those lessons without too many things catching fire. But
I hope
um,
so.
you know,
I hope so. In the meantime,
yeah,
I'm okay with it. Not so much because I like people writing bad software, but it's kind of a guaranteed job security for me, right? And for other security engineers that are out there
it sure is.
working on in cyber. And if you guys
Yeah,
keep trusting AI blindly, go for it. It keeps me employed, but not so good for
that's
infrastructure. Yeah,
yes. That's great. And I like that's a positive way to turn this and to finish this conversation is like there is no lack of relevance for talented security people.
right,
There's no lack of demand. The demand on the security side, if anything, will continue increasing. And so we need more people that can identify their passions if they're fortunate enough to be able to do that and they have the opportunity and the time and they happen to fall into the right place. So they go, oh, here's a thing I enjoy. So I hope I'm sure that this conversation has been useful for some. I really hope it's been useful for you as the listener and the person watching us. Have a little nerd chat here for a while. I love this stuff. It's so much fun. It's what I think like it's my passion for sure. It's obviously Orlando's passion. It's like it's such a fun space to be in, and I appreciate you listening to
Hey,
us and taking the time. And
yeah,
like we
thank
said,
you.
if you've made it this far,
Yeah,
this might be for you.
it might be for you. It might very well be for you. Yeah, Ben, it's been a pleasure. It's been fun. Thank you very much for having me on. I hope I brought some
Likewise,
value to your audience
you
here.
did,
But
man.
yeah.
And do you have any place that you would like to share where like people can know about you? Do you have anything do you have any public facing persona?
Sure. All our consulting goes through IOP Solutions, AIOEP, solutions.com. It nothing to do with AI, but I like the acronym is actually my family's acronym. It just happens to coincide with AI, and then OEP in reverse engineering is original entry point, which is hilarious. That's my
Ah,
son's initials. Uh, so
nice.
it worked out. I've had that domain forever before AI even came up, and everybody thinks it's AI
Uh,
based, but I like it. It's relevant still, and I'll keep it.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Do with it what you will, kind of thing.
yeah.
It's great, man. Well, cheers, Orlando. Appreciate it,
Cheers,
man.
Ben. Thank you, buddy. Take care.